Good morning, everybody. I got my coffee. I got my vape. Let's talk a little. So today I wanted to talk about something that is going to piss you off. How do I know it's going to piss you off? Because it really pissed me off the first time I heard this. It sent me down a rabbit hole of all kinds of stuff. But I guarantee if you follow along, and this is something that you can accept, it's going to be very freeing for you. It's going to accelerate everything in your life, all of your processes, and is the basis of any long-term growth. So before we take our sip, I just want to let you know, if you decide that you want to get pissed off and not listen to this, I understand. It's totally fine. I totally understand, believe me, because I've been through this. But if you follow along, I think you can get some benefit from my experience with this. So with that, let's take a sip. Okay, you ready? Are you sitting down? You've got a full coffee? Take a deep breath. All right, here it is. Where you are in life is a result of your decisions. Yep, that's a big one. That pissed me off. That sent me spiraling through all kinds of excuses, all kinds of arguments why that isn't true. It hurt me down to my soul. But I trusted the person who told me that, and I followed along with their reasoning, and I realized it was true. And again, this is one of those life-changing moments for me that accelerated my whole entire life. And I saw ways that I was holding myself back. This topic wasn't brought to me to convict me or for me to feel regret. And that was the big one that I was fighting. I was fighting against that voice, because that little voice in the back of your head, your critic, that's the one that jumped in and said, hell yeah, it's your fault. Who do you think you are? And all those things. I was fighting against that because I was fighting against an enemy inside of my head. And that's the worst place to fight. So the first thing that he told me, knowing this, because obviously he went through it as well, is just to always remember that every decision that anyone makes about anything is the best decision that they can make based on the circumstances around them and their perspective. Now, that takes into account that their perspective might be that they need to take advantage of somebody, or it might be fear-based, or whatever it is. So I'm not giving any kind of qualifications to that decision, but just know that it's the best we can do. We go through life like we're walking through a maze. I don't know if you know the story of Midas, or if you've ever seen one of those big mazes that are made out of bushes 10 feet high. But when you're walking through it, especially if you're walking through it in the dark with no map, it is nearly impossible to do. If you're way up above it in a helicopter, it's a lot easier to be able to see where you need to go. And it still takes a lot of trial and effort. But when you're down there, you walk down, take a right turn, and you walk for a while, and a left turn and right turn, and you find yourself smack dab with nowhere to go. You have to turn around and go back. That's my best analogy of people's journey through life. So give yourself a break right away. Give everybody else a break. And again, take a deep breath. So where you are in life is a result of your decisions. What does that mean? It means that you are in control. The first thing that I went to was probably, I don't remember exactly, but it was probably the worst situation that I felt like I had absolutely no control over, that life or somebody else had complete control. And it was because of them that I wound up in a bad situation. But realistically, even if you don't feel like you have any good options, you still make the decision. You decide. You decide to be fearful. You decide to give your control to somebody else. All of those things are still decisions. I know that it didn't seem like that you had a choice, but you actually made one. Nothing that you do comes about without you making a decision to do it. Again, you are in control. The circumstances aren't in control. Your employer isn't in control. The economy isn't in control. And guess what? Your starting point isn't in control. If one starting point controls where they wind up, there would never be any overcoming stories. Overcoming stories inspire us. Those are the things we just naturally are drawn to. They give us hope. They inspire us. And again, without them, we would have no movies to watch. They would all be documentaries. Make sense? Always remember, you are never a victim. And this is the point of this. This is the strength, is to always remember that you're never a victim. And if your last decision was better than the one before, then guess what? That was a win. You're a champion. That was awesome. You're moving in the right direction. If it wasn't, it gives you some time to reflect and to adjust and figure out what went wrong with that decision. What could I have decided better? How could I have been better prepared for that decision or for the outcome of the options that I had? I had to change my thinking. I had to change the way that I saw things in life. And I'm not telling you that I never feel like a victim. I'm not telling you that I don't think that things are fair. I'm fighting against that, even though I don't believe fair is a real word. I know it's in the dictionary. It doesn't have any true meaning in life. It's a fictitious concept in my mind, in my beliefs. But I still go through that, and I allow myself to go through that. I allow myself to have that pity party. I will give myself a certain amount of time to say, this is effed up, and fight against it and stamp my feet and throw myself on the floor and throw a fit. And this just isn't fair, and cry and yell and scream. But then I pick myself up and I say, it's my decision. How do I make a good one? What do I have control over? Sometimes it's just being patient. I had to fall back on a benchmark. I'm going to tell you the definition. I actually looked it up. Are you still proud of me? I love when I do this. It just makes me feel like I really know what I'm doing. I'm not saying I do. Okay, so this is the definition of benchmark. Let's see. Something that serves as a standard by which others may be measured or judged. A stock whose performance is a benchmark against which other stocks can be measured. That's an example. A point of reference from which measurements may be made, and I think that's probably the best one for what we're talking about. A standardized problem or test that serves as a basis for evaluation or comparison. So how is that used? I use that benchmark of, I am not a victim. I make the decisions in my life. Nothing happens to me unless I decide for it too. I am the power and the creator of my future. It's something I can return back to after I've done throwing that pity party. It's that benchmark. It's that thing I can hold on to. It's that high tower that I always have, that no matter where I am in the maze, I can look up and see that. And it reminds me of this. I decided to make a decision that in my life, nothing happens to me. Nothing happens despite me. It only happens because of me. If I don't like where I am, I can change my surroundings, my location, or how I feel about my surroundings or location. It's my decision to make. Now, it's not easy. Nothing worthwhile in life is easy. And guess what? Nothing that causes you to grow ever is easy. It wouldn't work. You wouldn't grow if it was easy. So I'm talking about accountability. I'm talking about that anything that Phil does, Phil is responsible for it. If I do something that causes somebody else to hurt, I know it's going to be unintentional because I know my heart, but I live up to it. And I say, this is what happened. I am sorry that it affected you. This is what I've done to try to correct it so that it doesn't happen again. And then it's up to the other person, because that leads me to the next thing. Accountability means I can only control my thoughts and my actions. I can't control how others think and act. I can't control how life works. And you know what? I don't have to. I'm not responsible for how they feel about their own life. I feel a connection to try to help them. And I would not do anything deliberately to put them in a situation where they may fall into fear. But if I am responsible for my decisions and I have the freedom of that and all the power that it gives me, every other person has that same right and that same power. So it looks like this may be a little short one. Let's take another sip and let you ponder on that for just a minute. Are you pissed off yet? So Phil, how does that help me to grow? How does that empower me? Well, just think about it. Most of my life, I thought there was outside forces. There was always something or somebody or some organization that was in control of where I could go. And I had absolutely no power. And that took my power away inside of me. because it starts with your own thoughts. And I already had thoughts that were working against me. Remember that little voice? So knowing that I had control, I had the power, I didn't have to do things because I was worried how other people were going to see me. I didn't have to do things because somebody else thought that they had power over me. I didn't have to do things because I felt guilty. I only had to do things because taking the time and putting thought into it, using my experience and other people's experience, asking questions, getting help, that I knew that I would make the most educated decision for each situation. Now, that doesn't mean I don't fly off the handle and make quick decisions, but I own up to those. And then again, if they were a better decision than one I made before it, I won. And if it wasn't a very good decision, I own up to it. I analyze it. I figure what I could do to change it, and I move forward. I just make a little tweak. If you're not used to this concept and you haven't thought about this concept before, I know that right now you're in turmoil. I know you're fighting. Hopefully you trust me enough, but if you don't know me, why would you trust me? I know you're going through this and you've got to decide, am I going to follow this? Or is this a bunch of malarkey and I'm just going to dismiss it? You know what? Either way is fine. That is your decision to make. I make the decisions for my life. I have the power. And none of this is meant to make you feel comfortable. So if you're feeling uncomfortable, that's good. I did. And that was a positive, because if I felt uncomfortable, then I figured out how to get out of that spot where I felt uncomfortable and fix it. So none of this stuff that I'm saying is meant to make you feel comfortable. What it's meant to do is to make you feel powerful, because that is the secret to life, is knowing that you are powerful. Let me share a poem with you real quick. This is one that I read quite often because it really, really, really means a lot to me. It's really had an impact on my life, and I share it whenever I can. It's called Our Deepest Fear by Mary Ann Williamson. You ready? Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. How powerful is that? You are powerful beyond measure, and you are. So it's all up to me. I am in control of my own life. I create my own future. I can play the role of victim or victor as I choose. So it's all up to you. You are in control of your own life. You create your own future. You can play the role of the victim or the victor as you choose, and that's fine. But always remember, at your core, you are powerful beyond measure. I'm going to leave you with that. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for having coffee. I'll see you next week.